Hi, everyone. It's Ian Heller with Distribution Strategy Group. I'm joined today by Andy Stanis, who's the EVP for Intershop Americas. Andy, let's talk about all things e-commerce, AI, and distribution, shall we?
Let's do it.
That's good. Good. So I understand you got a couple questions for me before I ask you mine.
Well, I thought it'd be just a good idea to, sort of have you warm things up a little bit for us, Ian. So, I know recent research from Distribution Strategy Group finds the industry undergoing a transformation, right? Driven by evolving customer expectations and technology advancements. Can you elaborate on what you think is influencing the sector the most?
Yeah, I think it's still digital transformation. I think that a message that we've been delivering for a while that distributors are really beginning to embrace in big numbers is that measuring your shopping cart sales is a terrible way to understand the importance of digital transformation to your company. We've proven again and again with data that there are thousands, millions of business customers who will shop on your website but not place the order there because they have a purchasing process that requires them to email you a PO. So they are using your website to make product selections and doing all kinds of other things like checking their accounts, paying their bills, looking up technical information, etc. So it's very essential to them. It's really important to them. It's a big differentiator if you have one, and a huge negative if you don't have a great one. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're accruing a lot of shopping cart revenue because there are just so many business customers that have a purchasing process they have to follow that doesn't accommodate your shopping cart. And so I think breaking that retail measurement mindset, like we've done, I think pretty successfully with distributors over the last few years, has helped a lot of distributors understand that no matter what kind of distribution you're in, no matter how much you actually accrue in online sales, you need a robust product, robust and product detail filled, uh, product information filled website for your distribution company. And as a result, we're seeing lots and lots of distributors invest in websites finally who maybe hadn't been before. And the ones who have websites now realize that it punches way above its weight in importance beyond the sales that it generates through the shopping cart, because it could very well be generating sales through other channels.
That's great. So, when you think about sort of, the breaking and then rebuilding of people, what do you think that, the changes people should make and adapt to maintain profitability?
Yeah, I think first of all, you need to measure it right. And there, if for example, you could just call 100 customers a month who placed an order but it wasn't online, and just ask them, hey, did you use your website in the course of placing that order? And then extrapolate that number across your sales, and you're going to get a much better measurement of ROI than your shopping cart. So that helps you understand and justify greater expenditure on your website. I think also you have to look at what your competitors are doing. I mean, we know for a fact that customers that engage with distributors through multiple channels buy more and stay longer than customers who only buy through one channel. So it's borderline insane not to have a robust website. I mean, you really need to have good digital capabilities. And I think, understanding the contribution your website makes, talking to your customers about how often they use it, benchmarking against your competitors, and even maybe distributors and retailers who do a lot of B2B like Home Depot, benchmarking against them compared to your own digital capabilities. That's just what you need to do to keep up these days.
Well said. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. No, good. I appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions. I got a bunch of my own, so let me go ahead and jump in and start asking you, Andy. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I got a lot for you. Okay, so first of all, based on your experience with major distributors like United Refrigeration and Bunzl, what objectives do you see driving companies to partner with Intershop?
I honestly think the most overarching objective is convenience. We often talk about, oh, B2C is driving the way people would buy in B2B. And really what it comes down to is what they're driving is the convenience factor, right? People want the most convenient experience they can get. They don't buy as often on price as we've been led to believe. The other thing that they're looking for, and you mentioned this earlier, is they want access to information. They want easy access and to a lot of information, right? They're looking for installation guides. They're looking for spec sheets. They're looking for how-to videos, right? So they expect a lot of information and they want to be able to get it quite easily. Another trend is self-service, right? So distributors want to self-serve, they want their customers to self-serve, and distributors need this self-service, right? And part of it is to lower the cost to serve, right? Research says that the average cost of a transaction that salesperson assisted would be $12, right? Even a phone in order could be as high as $7. You get into the e-com space, and you're talking about 7 cents, right? So it's a fraction of the investment that organizations make in other channels, and they'd be insane not to have a strong website. Give people what they want, right? Give them convenience, let them order how they want, when they want, where they want, and ultimately this reduces customer churn. And that's something that I think every distributor is interested in, is making sure that they're avoiding turnover that they can. Another way to do it is to make sure that you've got a single view of the customer, right? You're looking at a holistic view of the relationship, but you can focus on things like spending patterns, right? That's one way to look for churn. Maybe you want to measure how much they're spending in comparison to what their commit was. Or looking at downward purchasing trends, and allows you to act on something before it gets out of hand, before maybe you lose a customer.
And what's the key challenge to achieving those objectives?
It's still technology. It's technology and it's a digital transformation. Both are Digital transformation is difficult, and so are technology selection and implementation. And I think that's where people are still struggling.
Interesting. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think a lot of distributors are making up ground in technology, but most of them, or a lot of them anyway, have a long way to go. Now, at Distribution Strategy Group, we help companies navigate digitalization, and we emphasize the importance of technologies such as e-commerce platforms. And in fact, we saw adoption go up 25% from 2022 to 2024. What do you think are the key drivers of that?
Well, I think some of that 25% growth is probably catch up, right? That maybe distribution was behind some other industries, so that's part of it. But then also it's just an ongoing demand, right, for speed and convenience, right? People want 24/7 availability. They expect this massive amount of information to be available at their fingertips. Could be an MSDS sheet, it could be an installation guide, it could be spec sheets, whatever it is. They want that information available. I think also taking orders online or taking orders through a mobile device is nothing revolutionary. But what is new many times is an omni-channel experience, right? Maybe I want to buy online and return on store, or buy online and pick up in store, whatever the case may be. So I think that that's also driving adoption. Another impetus behind this increase is the demand for transparency. Distribution clients want to see more information, not just the installation guides and the spec sheets, but maybe they want to see real-time inventory. And maybe if you can give that to them, you can drive more sales, right? You want to give them the full catalog, or maybe not, right? Whatever they may be restricted from buying. They also want to see their pricing, right? They didn't negotiate pricing with you probably for no reason. So they want to see that pricing. They want to see it up front. Not in the cart, but early and often, right? So that's that transparency is what's really driving a lot of adoption. And then, like many things in the technology space, right, it's more efficient. You make less mistakes using a computer than you do using humans and pencil and paper. So you get fewer errors. You also, if you're doing it right, it frees up your salespeople to focus on more complex transactions. They can do more complex selling. They're not just handling reorders or taking parts orders. So they're happier. They're selling more complex things. They're happier because they're doing less, brute force type work. It also allows an organization to scale. Back in the day, if you started a business, say in Detroit, you'd say you're doing really well if you were to scale to the Great Lakes. Nowadays, as long as you're allowed to sell anywhere you can. As long as the, currency and language are good, you can scale way beyond your constraints that you may have faced in the past. And another thing that's driving this is the fact that there are other distributors that are moving quicker. They may be early adopters, right? So you've got to catch up with them, keep up with the Joneses, as they said, and then look out for digital only players. and marketplaces, right? These are all kind of the forces that are at play that are forcing people to adopt e-commerce sooner.
Okay, good. And that's a very thoughtful answer. And actually, as you were talking, I thought about something you said earlier. So I want to go back to something you said previously, Andy, when you talked about a single view of the customer and the importance of having a holistic view of the entire customer relationship. Um, can you elaborate on that and explain how that benefits distributors in managing and improving customer relationships?
For sure. I'd say let's start with a definition of customer. So in my world, I think a customer, I'm thinking about at the client level, right? The company level. So, Harry, Mary, Larry, and Perry may do individual orders, but if they all work for, say, Sony Corporation, I want to make darn sure that I understand what Sony is doing. Again, I don't think that having that kind of a holistic view is all that revolutionary. But where it starts to become sort of more important is that it offers an opportunity for personalization. And personalization does not mean hi, Ian, right? We've moved beyond that, I hope. And we're moving now into things like, hey, what's your install base? What do you already own? And is the part that you're ordering going to work with this? Or what's your order history? Right? Have you ordered a lot of these before? We may be able to, as a good distributor, say, hey, Harry, you don't know what Mary and Larry are up to, but Perry just ordered 10,000 of these, and you guys normally order five. Are you good? Is this by intent? Right. And then customers, of course, can self-serve and look up order status. But again, understanding that holistic view, the warranties they may have, you may be able to get into cost centers, right? Who can spend how much? How much have you spent year to date? Ian, it's all about capitalizing on opportunities, right? Making sure that you maybe upsell, cross sell, or avoid a loss, right? Sales 101. Gain an advantage or avoid a loss. And avoiding a loss, of course, would be selling something that isn't going to fit with what they already own. You're just going to sour the relationship and have it lead to a return. You take the co side of that equation and you give someone exactly what they need. You give them that convenience, and you're absolutely going to see great things happen.
Okay, I agree with you. And so we need to drive this shift or push it fast, push this shift towards digital interactions even faster. And how can we help distributors embrace e-commerce and enhance their engagement strategies?
So this is not about replacing people. This is about getting the best of both worlds, human and digital. When we rolled out an e-commerce solution, one of our treasured distribution clients, the distributor was worried about losing the relationship that they had there with Martha. Martha knows us. Martha knows the way we procure. She knows the way we shop. We don't want to lose that. And when our customer was finally able to say to their distributor, "You're not going to lose Martha. You get to keep Martha, but then you get the best of the digital world as well. This is not a binary choice. You get to have everything." So that's one of the things that I really love about it. When you stop and think about adoption, right? I don't care if it's internal or external adoption, right? This cuts across both and it cuts across all industries. These are some key things that work for everybody in every scenario. First one is find your champions, right? Find the people, typically early adopters, always people that are respected and vocal, that are fine kind of being on the center of attention. Get those people behind your effort. Get them to start talking about other people, about their happiness with the solution, about how well things are working, how they're freed up to do other more important things, whatever the case may be. Another great compliment, though, is keep your eyes on your skeptics, right? Because the people that had their arms crossed and were telling you all the reasons why this won't work, when some of those people convert and you spot them and then you can turn them, trust me, there's no better disciple than a former skeptic. So those are a couple things that cut across both internal and external adoption. Now, focusing strictly on internal adoption is generally easy to do, because you can say to people, listen, you no longer have to deal with email and fax orders. If a solution that you have in place doesn't make it easy to take email and fax orders, something's not going right, talk to us, because that should be relatively easy. You can always have someone check an order before it gets finalized, but it should make their life a lot easier. Another way to drive internal adoption: go ahead and overpay on commissions. right? People are so freaked out about, who's responsible for what. I don't want to pay people for something they didn't do. Come on. I've never, all the years I've been in the business world, I've never seen a company that went under because they overpaid on commissions. But I have seen them go under because they lost market share. So if you have to quote unquote overpay, so be it. You're talking about motivating people to change their behavior, whether that's your salespeople or your customers. You got to push them into a certain area, so be it. So that's another way to do it. And of course, you're not going to give up some mom and apple pie things that always work when it comes to adoption, right? You need to do training. You need to do workshops. You need to solicit people to be your reference. Get them out there, get them evangelizing the solution. Throw a discount at them, throw a promotion at them. But keep one really important thing in mind, and that is that third order. That's critical. All the research has shown that the third time somebody buys online, now you've got them. Now they're hooked. And so whatever you need to do to take them from sort of two to three, do it. And along the way, make sure that you're keeping trust, right? And that's because they get their custom pricing and because they get their custom catalog, they're going to trust you and they're going to be happy and they're going to continue to come back.
Yeah, and I think, when they're trying to justify these investments, like we talked about earlier, and I think those are all good ways to drive the transformation. But even so, a lot of times distribution executives don't understand that the website, the e-commerce, and the digital capabilities may be driving offline sales. And it can be hard to persuade senior management to understand that. Do you see your distributor customers using their e-commerce site to drive revenue across all channels? And, how can you help them understand the benefits of that more clearly?
Yes, I see them doing it, and I think it's a two-part thing, right? One is to understand it, and the other is to accept it. Um, Accept the fact that this is omni-channel, right? That things will happen offline and online. And again, I see often that senior management is super concerned about attribution. Well, I don't want to pay someone for something they weren't responsible for, or the sales are still occurring at the distribution center, so why do we even need to sweat ecom? That's not what it's about. It's don't worry too much about attribution. What you should be focused on is how's overall revenue, right? What is your market share look like? Listen, 60%, experts say, 60% now at an enterprise level of a purchasing journey is done online before they engage a salesperson, before you'll even know that they're doing it. They're doing deep product discovery. They're looking for comprehensive information. Just because maybe they went and ordered at the center doesn't mean your online doesn't work. Just because they ordered online doesn't mean the DC isn't super valuable as well. So yeah, people need to take a look and understand that it's a holistic thing and that it's an omni-channel experience and focus on what matters. It's not attribution. It is about overall revenue. It is watching for channel shift. Make sure you're not just moving offline to online, and growing the overall package. I tell you, one way you can look at omni-channel is to make sure that you're giving people real-time accurate information. So maybe you integrate your e-commerce with your inventory management, right? Give the end customer real-time stock information. Let them know exactly what you have where. Or maybe not. Maybe you don't let them know everything. Maybe you want to drive them to a specific location for something that's beneficial to you as the distributor. Maybe that location has more inventory. Maybe that location has more people there to just run the operation. Maybe they've got a great setup outside that would allow you to do some upselling. So it's the best of both worlds. You can show them exactly what you want wherever it may be laying your inventory, or you may give them a truncated view that serves your own purposes. I'll tell you another way that it contributes to the overall picture is you're going to use your systems to funnel customer processes. Could be a return, might be a quote process. All you're trying to do, though, is make it easy for customers to self-serve. Go back to this word, said it multiple times already, but it's about convenience. If you make it easy for people, you're going to drive satisfaction, you're going to drive loyalty, and you're going to decrease churn. Ian, bottom line, the companies that are leading in B2B e-commerce aren't just forcing customers to enter part numbers. They're using digital to do what the best salespeople do, but now you can do it at scale.
Yeah, and you're describing, I mean, really a mature a state, right, that distributors need to achieve, but they got to get started. And what are some common pitfalls distributors fall into based on your experience, Andy, when they're starting with e-commerce?
I think one of the biggest ones is they try to boil the ocean, right? They're
Yeah.
trying to sell everything to everyone. And listen, I'll tell you, in my own e-com world, for a long time, I said there's no such thing as an MVP. I was dead wrong. There is such a thing as a minimally viable product. There is such a thing as a pilot or a proof of concept. It can be done. You can start with a selected list of products. You don't have to sell everything, and you don't have to sell everything to everyone. You can start with a vetted group of customers. And what does that mean? It means you start with this MVP, you start with a pilot, a proof of concept. Maybe you do forego address validation verification. Maybe you do forego fraud detection. You're only taking, invoice ordering. Maybe you're offering limited shipping. Who cares? Right? You're going to learn in the real world what's going to work. And what you also need to keep your eyes on as you're starting out is what is most important to your business, right? Maybe it is quotation, maybe it's cost center management, maybe it's workflows and approvals. I'm not sure. Perhaps what you sell is highly configurable. You're going to need configuration or warranty management, whatever it might be. You need to know what are the, say, top two, three, four most important things within your ecosystem, within your world, and then make sure that your e-commerce, delivers them for you. Now, if you are struggling and you're not sure, luckily we do offer a workshop that we do around Intershop's digital maturity matrix. And what it does is it looks at, first of all, how ready are you, all right, from a technology standpoint and from a data standpoint. And then it'll look, generally speaking, at what the complexity of this particular feature might be. Let's say it's configurability. Um, so to look at the complexity from a tech and a data standpoint, you take a look at both of those, and then you start to get your business value. Now you've got a numeric understanding of what your business value is. So if that's something of interest to people, we would be happy to talk to them a little bit more about what we do in our digital maturity matrix. Another thing I think, though, that organizations need to, another pitfall that organizations need to avoid is edge cases. I talked earlier about people with their arms closed that are very skeptical about this particular move into new technology. It's oftentimes those people are coming up with an edge case. What about this one time when so and so needs to happen? And I think you need to keep your eyes on the prize. Ask yourself, is this an edge case or is this something that falls within the 80/20? Keep inside of the 80/20, and I think you're going to be in great shape. And I've said it before, but I can't help myself from saying it again, which is don't worry too much about the commissions. So many people are worried about paying someone for something that they don't think that they've necessarily earned. You'll never fully know, and nor should you care. Focus on market share, focus on repeat ordering, focus on that third purchase, but don't sweat about the commissions, at least not in the early days.
Yeah, your conversation about the edge cases is interesting because I've seen people who are clearly against a new e-commerce platform almost invent edge cases to try to bury the idea, right? And if you're not careful, those edge cases can weigh in as though they're as important as core requirements when they're not. So you really have to, I think, in the course of the requirements definition discussion, be clear about what is an edge case and what is a core requirement. So I think that's that 80/20 rule that you cite, Andy, is really important. What are some mistakes, though, that you see distributors commonly make when they're selecting a B2B commerce platform? And I know you've got your workshop, which is great, but what are some strategies, generally speaking, that can help them choose the right platform for them?
I'll tell you that one of the first strategies is to make sure that you've got the right people involved in the buying decision. It's amazing to me to think like entities like the corporate executive board will tell you, right, that for an enterprise sale, the average buying team has grown in size from, 3 to 5 to 7. Now it's probably 9. And yet still, when we're doing discovery at customers today, we still find entire departments left out, operating companies that were not part of a decision, brands, countries. So please don't misunderstand me. I'm not advocating for a 15-person buying team, But I am saying, like, make sure you keep in mind your brands, your operating companies, your entities, your manufacturers, whatever the case may be, right? But make sure you're taking as holistic of look as you possibly can, and have the right people involved in that buying decision. Um, One of those people may not be the CEO. We used to tell people to look out for the airline magazine, right? The CEO's flying from one place to another, read something in an airline magazine, and that becomes the, next great hot topic for the company. Don't try not to let that happen, right? Do a full discovery. Make sure that you understand everything that you need. Make sure also that you're not getting an entry level solution if that's not what you want. If you're comfortable running out of tech headspace, in 6 to 12 months, fine, pick an entry level solution. But otherwise, get something that's more fully featured and more importantly, that's built to sell what you sell, right? Taking something that was built to sell socks or, skiing equipment usually doesn't lend itself well to selling chemicals and submersible pumps. So be smart about what you do and know what you need. And then also don't overestimate what you can do or what you will do. I think we often, have an overinflated view of what we're capable of doing. And so I think organizations need to be very realistic about what they can take on and what they will actually do when the rubber meets the road. So be cautious about picking a solution that's overly complex, that needs a lot of maintenance, needs a developer just to make a simple change. You don't want that. On the other hand, this is e-commerce in our space anyway. So you're selling online. So it's critically important. It's your face to the organization. To take a nice parallel that I have used over the years that I think resonates well with people is if you have an ERP, I would say think about it in that same way, meaning do you have a team that's dedicated to your ERP? Was there an implementation? Do you have a support contract with an outside firm to possibly help you with the ERP? If the answer to those are yes, the answers of those being a yes as well in e-commerce are somewhat equal, something to think about. So just about being realistic about what you can do and what you will do. And speaking of being realistic, you got to understand what you really need and where you're at today, right? So, digital maturity matrix can help with that, but you want to make sure you choose a solution that meets the needs of your organization. One of the best analysts in the B2B space is a gentleman by the name of Andy Hoare, ex of Forrester, and now with his own firm Paradigm B2B. And Andy, in a way, tells distributors you and your requirements are unique, and that's okay. I say embrace that because you are unique, and make sure that those top three critical differentiators are met by whatever solution you bring in. So again, make sure your features and functionalities of any solution that you bring in are going to meet the needs of your business, but also fit well with what you've already spent money on, right? So make sure that it fits within your tech stack, and then sky's the limit.
Okay, that's really good advice. I appreciate that. I know our listeners will. Um, Now we've talked about e-commerce tools and how they've changed, how distributors are adopting them more quickly. But here's AI, and it's changing everything. So, what does the next wave of digital maturity and digital technology look like for distributors, e-commerce platforms in the context of AI?
Yeah, I mean, AI, boy, it's everywhere, isn't it? So there's a lot of buzz. There's new technology created every single day. So it's clearly an exciting and a little bit of a tumultuous time in the space because of that. But there's also a lot of false promises, and there have been some failures with AI, right? Organizations have not even understood how much it's going to cost them to use AI, and they've blown their budgets and their security concerns. So listen, I'm all for AI. I don't mean to be a wet blanket, but I just think that it's important that people keep their eyes on the prize, which is their business objectives, right? I mean, geez, in B2B commerce, once you get people buying from you, then your next priority is getting them to spend even more money with you, not necessarily hitting them with AI. But I will tell you, as an Intershop example, what we'll focus in on is that customer experience, right? So a primary objective for distributors is to make sure that they're giving people the ultimate customer experience, customer journey. One way we do it is with a product we have called Spark AI. This is where we deliver personalized search and recommendations solutions. And what's nice about it is, of course, it gives a more exact search result. We all know how frustrating it can be when we get poor search results. It'll give product recommendations, again, based on what you own or what will fit. What we also like about our solution in this space is that it's a white box, meaning you can see what's happening within the search tool itself, and then you can change it. A lot of the solutions that are out there are really cool and really fast and have a lot of AI, but if it doesn't do what you expect it to do, you're on the outside looking in. You'll never know why that's the case. You're also hamstrung because you may have experience and intuition and knowledge of your industry, right? About seasonality as an example, you can affect a change in your search results with an open tool like Spark. You can't with some of the others that are out there. So, talking about personalization and how important that is. And again, it's not about high Ian. It's about how this is what you own. This is what will fit within your shop. It's making people giving them a more convenient experience, making it easier for them to buy, reducing churn, and just generally making them a much happier buyer. And then we also do that via AI. You hear a lot of these days about co-pilots, and Intershop has a co-pilot, as well as agentic AI, right? A little more enabled solution. And either a co-pilot or an agent, in our case, can help someone as they are conducting this vital product discovery process. So you can use AI to help with that. I'll just say one last thing about AI, and that is, don't invent this from scratch. Don't go build your own AI, right? The experts say that embedded AI is the most logical place to start. And so that means working with your tech vendors. They're spending in AI. Engage with them in what they're doing around AI. You'll benefit from that relationship. You'll keep your exposure a lot lower, but keep your eyes on the prize, right? Your business objectives are what matter most, not about how cool and buzzwordy the solution may be.
Fantastic. And I know a place that people can learn more about Intershop is at our upcoming conference, Applied AI for Distributors. So this is June 24th through 26th in Chicago at the Chicago Marriott O'Hare. So it's very accessible, easy to get to. We have a lot of great speakers. We've got Don Sarno, who's the Senior Vice President of Digital Enterprise for Sonopar, who's the world's largest electrical distributor. He's going to have some fascinating insights into how Sonopar utilizes AI and thinks about AI in terms of talent and strategy. We've got Noel Russell, who has an extensive background at multiple companies like Microsoft and IBM, and is currently the founder and chief AI officer at the AI Leadership Institute. She's keynoting. We have Trent Gillespie, who was with Amazon Business for a long time. So, I mean, it's really quite a lineup. And I know Intershop is going to be there. So, Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what attendees can expect to hear from Intershop at the summit, and how do you think this event can provide value to distributors in this time that AI is becoming so important?
Well, I'll tell you, Ian, that's a heck of a lineup. And, I'm even more excited now hearing about some of those great names and looking forward to it. So if anyone's on the fence, stop thinking about it. Just sign up and go. This is a very beneficial event. We learn a lot every year, and I'm sure you will as well. And what you can expect to hear from us, we want to be real, right? So we want to give you practical use cases that other distributors have benefited from working with us. So these are real proven, field proven techniques, right? Along with some best practices. So we'll have time for some in-depth discussions. We'll be giving a live demonstration of our solution. We'll also be discussing Spark AI, which I mentioned earlier, as well as the Intershop Copilot and our agents, experts on site to answer any questions. And we look forward to seeing you in a presentation at the event.
Fantastic. Andy, it was been fascinating talking to you today. Thanks so much for joining me for this conversation. And we'll see you in Chicago in June, huh?
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Ian.